Hey everybody, my name is Lowell and welcome to the channel. So we have another reaction video. This is going to be television, British versus American. Now, I've been pretty lucky. We immigrated from Britain when I was a kid, so I grew up with British TV. And obviously growing up in the 90s, we got a lot of American TV too. So I should be pretty well aware what's going on in this. So let's jump in and let's have a look, shall we?
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of British vs. Americans. Today I'm joined with none other than...
Oh, you want me to say my name? Hi.
Yeah, there he is.
My name is Jay Foreman. Hello.
Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Stanmore in northwest London. I qualify as a proper Brit.
But yeah, today we're going to be talking about television. You know a lot about television, it seems.
I know a fair bit about television. I used to watch it when I was a kid. Sometimes I watch it now if there's nothing else on.
I personally don't really watch TV in the UK.
I don't actually sit down and watch TV. YouTube, yes. Streaming services, yes. Actual normal TV, not for a while.
Okay, that much. But
Not for a
growing
while.
up, it was just always on, all the time.
I can tell how little I watch TV now. I once went to house sit for my parents when they went away, and I had a big widescreen TV at my disposal. I sat in the comfy sofa with the TV switched off on my phone.
So, in terms of differences in the UK and the US, can you explain to me what a panel show is? The UK is well known for having so many panel shows.
A panel show is when you get a bunch of people, usually comedians, to sit around and ostensibly score points against each other. But it's a reason for them to just banter and to prove how funny they are in a surprisingly aggressive environment. It all
We get a lot of panel shows here too, obviously following on from the British TV.
started, we had a show in the late 80s, early 90s called Have I Got News for You?
That's still running.
It is still running. It's one of the longest running panel
that's a
shows, if not the
good TV
longest
show.
running panel show in the UK, where people sit around and talk about the events in the news that week. But then there was another panel show that came along, all about music, called Nevermind the Buzzcocks.
We have an Australian version of that one as well.
And then there was one about sport called They Think It's All Over, and so on and so on, until now. About 1 in every 1.5 TV shows is a panel show now.
I mean, I don't think we have that many in the US at all. I think does The View count? I don't know if you heard of that one.
The View.
View?
I don't know if that counts so much as a panel show as a
it's just a
chat
talk show.
or
Yeah.
That's a talk show, yeah. Panel, as he said, is more comedians doing it.
We have a lot of talk shows. We've got Jimmy Kimmel, we got Jimmy Fallon, they're the same person. There's so many different variations of the same concept.
Well, we have those as well. The main one is Graham Norton, where
Yeah,
Oh,
Graham
yes,
Norton.
he
he's
gets
lovely.
whoever is the biggest celebrity of that week
And then
to
just
usually
pulls
to
them
plug
on.
a film or an album to come on and have a chat over a glass of wine.
It used to be Jonathan, what was his name? Oh, I can't remember the other guy that used to do it too. If somebody remembers, let me know in the comments. Jonathan? Oh, I can't remember his
That's
name.
nothing to do with the panel show. The weirdest thing about the panel show is the obsession with a score.
And the points don't matter?
Usually. The thing is, the whole point of the game, as it were, is to score points and be the winning team, but no one ever cares. The real currency in a panel show is laughs. It's much better to appear on a panel show, get no points at all, but the audience laughs at how funny you are or how graciously you lose for knowing nothing about the news.
Another great one is, which is finished now, is Mock the Week. Is a great show as well.
Or current affairs than it is to actually score points.
Hence why when they do all those like trivia questions, nobody answers seriously. It's just jokes.
Yeah, they have. There's a very long-running panel show on Radio 4 called The News Quiz, which is not really a quiz. It's merely a discussion show. But the thing that turns it into a quiz is that the host will always say when someone has finished talking about something, 2 points to Evan.
Oh, thank
Even though you will always get 2 points on that show. It's not really a quiz. And apparently something I've heard, now this might be wrong, but something I've heard is that panel shows are popular in Ireland as well, but they don't bother with a score. They sit around and talk, but they don't go through the strange thing that we do where we have to say 2 points to Evan.
I know that the US and the UK both have a weird obsession with reality TV. Have you like stayed up to date on the Love Island thing?
No,
Okay, I also have avoided
I
this.
remember
I think the last one I watched, I think it was the first season of Big Brother when it first came out. Which ironically, I was actually living in the UK. But yeah, no, I don't watch reality
when
TV.
reality TV was a weird, exciting, almost
It was
science
new.
experiment. The first reality TV that we had over here was Big Brother, way back
I
in
still have
2000.
never watched that. Is it you just stay in a house and you get voted off the island almost of a house?
Yeah, it's basically the purest and simplest form of the voting off reality show because it doesn't really have a theme. The only theme is they are cut off from the outside world.
There's an interesting, obviously I didn't watch the season, but when the COVID hit, the pandemic, and they're telling your housemates, this country's closed down and that country's, you can see the shock. That's interesting to watch because obviously that's, current affairs happening. And and no, they didn't know about it. So that was very interesting to watch.
World, and here's an amazing novel idea. It's on television.
Oh.
It's real people, and it isn't scripted, but it's on TV. Now, that enough was something to warrant a new genre, an exciting type of TV show.
But was it scripted?
No. It
At
wasn't
all?
scripted. No. Broadly speaking, there's two types of reality show. There's the one where you just turn the cameras on and
hope it
edit it to
works.
tell a story. And then there's the other one.
Like Made in Chelsea type
Like
thing?
I'm thinking of shows like Made in Chelsea, crafted reality.
Okay.
That's where they don't so much script it, but they sort of nudge them in the right direction. And
Such
say,
as-
we'd like you to talk about this, or
Yeah.
if they want another shot. So
That what's it? Housewives, whatever, Housewives or whatever. I think that's the same. Not quite scripted, but definitely pushing them in that kind of confrontation and stuff like that.
that it looks as
I think.
beautifully shot as it is, they'll say, you know that argument you just had, could you have it again? But, you know, this time from a 30-degree angle.
I mean, we do the same exact thing in the U.S. I mean, we have Jersey Shore and, Hell's Kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
As someone says something offensive, you'll hear like sound effects that are just...
do? Oh, you mean the sort of TV show where people are arguing, and then it cuts to a piece to camera when
Yes,
they say,
exactly.
I mean, I was talking to Evan before, and I just can't believe what he said, and then underneath it's got my name.
Yeah.
And we never know...
When was that shot? I assume it's always afterwards. Like, now say what you thought about the fight, and it's like, he was really stepping on my
Yeah.
toes.
That's now become so normal that shows like Parks and Rec, where they actually use
Yeah.
that as a storytelling device.
Yeah, I also
haven't seen that
it's
show.
because like the Office originally was supposed to be a satire on that type of thing, right?
The reason
the
that-
U.S. Office.
The UK office, the original one, the reason that they used to have these pieces to camera is because it was supposed to be a documentary, and the film crew was meant to be there. But the difference between that and Parks and Rec is it's just a storytelling device, and it's never mentioned that there is a documentary going on. You're never supposed to know that a film crew is there.
It's just the style.
It's just the style. But with The Office, there was a film crew there.
Did you prefer the U.S. or the UK Office, out of curiosity?
Well, I first saw the UK one, and I loved it because I remember at the time watching it thinking, people are going to find it hard to realise this is a comedy show because there's no laughter track. And that was,
yeah.
believe it or not, in 2001 and a half or whenever it was, that was actually a new and interesting way of doing comedy. And between that show and The Royal Family, there were very few
Oh,
other...
I love the Royal Family. That is a great show. Great show. I never watched the British Office. I watched the American Office for my Patreon. Kind of started out rough. Man, the first season is almost unwatchable. It is so cringy. But after that, iconic. I love The Office US. I haven't watched the British one yet.
Are you talking about just actually the Royal Family? Was that a joke?
No, The Royal Family with a...
Between that
Oh,
and our
sorry.
actual family.
No, this is a show called The Royal Family
Okay.
with Carolyn Hearn and Craig Cash. Long story. Anyway, I loved the UK Office, and I still do. I think it stands up. It's a great show. The US Office was fine.
Oh. I've only seen the U.S. Office. I've seen 2 episodes of the British one, and I felt it was so dry it physically hurt to watch.
Well, this brings us neatly to comparing US and UK TV shows that have copied each other and seen the differences between them.
Yes. I've seen the pilot for The In-Betweeners in the U.S.
Oh.
The one with the bus wankers.
Yes.
Instead, what did they say?
Hold on, Ty, slow down.
It doesn't translate. You
Yeah.
can't...
No.
There are some things that you...
I've never watched the In-Betweeners, but I have heard it's interesting watching. I need to watch that too. That's on the list, In-Betweeners.
You shouldn't try to translate. There are some things
No.
that work because of where they originally come from. And the
Skins.
In-Betweeners might be
Yeah.
a great example. Skins, another good one. I think my favourite one, they tried a US remake of Fawlty Towers.
I don't even know what that is.
You don't know what Fawlty Towers is? Fawlty Towers is an
Oh my
iconic
God.
British sitcom starring John Cleese from Monty Python.
Oh.
And they run a hotel, and it's frequently cited as the best sitcom of all time. Certainly the best British sitcom. They tried it in America, but instead of John Cleese, they had one of the actresses from the Golden Girls.
Oh,
They
that-
turned it into a lady, which sometimes works, and in this case didn't.
I mean, also, I guess now that you're talking about it, I mean, Monty Python is also so...
I think Fawlty Towers was of its age, the 70s. Definitely couldn't make that now because of obviously some of the remarks and stuff in it, making fun of Germans. They had a Spanish waiter who wasn't actually Spanish. So, it's a lot of things that you couldn't get away with now, but at the time it worked. It was very funny. So definitely couldn't get away with it now. I never even heard that they made an American version of that Fawlty Towers. Okay.
iconically British.
Okay.
But that style of comedy just does not really work that much in the US.
Monty Python is so iconic, and it's so well made and so well loved and so popular that it represents Britain.
Yeah,
It's
it really does.
Essentially, it's become Britishness. And therefore, if you try to copy it, people think, well, you're trying to be British, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, it falls flat on its face then. What would iconically be an American show that wouldn't really work in the UK?
Oh, that's a great question.
Breaking Bad?
Are you saying that
You just go get your health care. You know, you don't need to sell
I
meth.
think the
Well, that's true because Breaking Bad's all well, kind of. I have watched it. I have watched it for my Patreon, but Walt was offered the money, but he didn't take it because of his ego. So it wasn't really. It obviously, you know, Big Pharma in American healthcare is obviously the real criminal in it, but he was kind of offered the money but didn't take it. So I mean, he said he wanted to do it anyway. So yeah, but they do have free healthcare in the UK, that's for sure.
closest thing to a British version of Friends
Was Mates.
Mates. We had a
No, that
show
would be
in
awesome.
about 2001 called Coupling that was written by Stephen Moffat. I think a really good example of how something is translated to American TV and is forced to fail. Two examples come to mind. One of them is a show called One Foot in the Grave, which is attempted in America.
Brilliant.
There's an iconic scene from the original series One Foot in the Grave, where he is forced through some strange convoluted reason to look after a pet turtle, and he kills it. In the American version, he doesn't kill it, he injures it, and it comes back to life. That totally changes the humour, completely changes the joke, and it's a great example of how American TV is more afraid than we are to go dark.
Well, you guys like dark humor.
We
The
do.
humor,
We're
like,
famous for it.
British people, I get accused of it all the time, liking dark humor. As I said, you know, we're from Scotland originally, so I kind of have that Scottish humor, but then I have Aussie humor, and it kind of mixes in, so it gets a little weird, that's for sure. But One Foot in the Grave is a great TV show as well too.
especially The Office, is very self-deprecating, and the joke is that this is real. This is how an office would be, as opposed to the US,
We
where it's
love-
like silly and ha ha ha.
In Britain, we love a bit of grit, we love a bit of misery. The second example that comes to mind is sort of similar. We used to have a TV show called The Hypnotic World of Paul McKenna. So, in the British original version, he would do a trick where he gets someone on stage, a big beefy guy, hypnotise him, click his fingers and say, when I wake you, you will be really weak and you will lose every attempt at an arm wrestling match. He then clicks his fingers, wide awake, and then brings onto the stage an old granny, little bitty old lady with this forlorn expression on her face, and he loses to her in an arm wrestling match, and the audience finds it hilarious. Now, fast forward to the American version, it's the same Paul McKenna, he does the same trick, he gets a big beefy guy, hypnotises him and says, you're going to be really weak, but the change is, instead of playing an old lady at an arm wrestling match, he plays a little 10-year-old boy. Here's the difference between the US and the UK. In the US, they love the little boy winning because it means hope.
Oh my
in
God.
the UK, they love the old woman winning because it's funny, it's despair. That, I think, is the
never even
crucial
thought of
difference between the US and the UK and our dark humour. We find it funnier to watch an old lady win than a young boy full of hope win. The major difference is the boy wants to win, and the old woman doesn't know where she is. That to me is funnier.
I mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I just thought, as you said that, I went, that makes sense for the TV show we have, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Where, which is a good idea for a show. I think it'd be funny to do that for the UK. Are you smarter than a GCSE student? I don't know.
We have it here as well. It's Are You Smarter Than a 10-year-old?
Yeah,
And I wonder
10-year-old.
if, to make that even more British, perhaps it should be, Are you smarter than someone in an old age home who's given up on life?
What exactly is Downton Abbey? Is that a soap?
What is Downton Abbey? Downton Abbey is a drama. I've never actually seen it myself, but
I've never seen Downton Abbey. I know one of the actors is from Notting Hill, one of my favourite shows, but I've never seen Downton Abbey. So,
I know it's very popular both here and in the US. Because people dress up set in the olden days, and people love a good costume drama. And I think the reason Americans like it so much is because a lot of them think that's what Britain's like now. That's what all Britain's like. You know, they're obsessed with class and dressing up and people who say, "Milady."
Yeah, when my mom visited the other week, she was talking to people in my house, and she was like, "You guys don't sound British." What does that mean? She went,
Ouch.
"You know, when you speak like this." And I went, "Oh, that's right."
Well, I mean, there are so many different ways to sound British.
Yeah.
Because given that we're only a tiny bunch of islands, we have so many accents and dialects. Probably the best example of this is the two cities of Liverpool and Manchester, which are only about...
Close.
They're very close. They're only about 30 miles apart, but they sound completely different from each other.
Do you
Completely
think
different.
Doctor Who could ever be translated into the US?
It's a difficult one because one of the things that
I don't think Doctor Who would work as an American TV show. I don't know.
makes Doctor Who so iconic is how British it is. You know, it's its very Britishness
It's
that makes it so popular around the world. So if you try to translate it,
How would you if you're going to do it in America, what would be the TARDIS? Because it's a telephone box in Britain. Does America have telephone boxes? I don't think so. Like that with the door, especially the door? I don't know. What would it be?
Into American, it would have to lose something of itself. Now, the reason, by the way, that I'm being quite vague about this and not going into any detail about Doctor Who, I don't really like Doctor Who.
I don't like Doctor
But people expect, because, I don't know, I'm ever so slightly geeky, but, you know, people...
I haven't watched Doctor Who since, I don't know, the late 80s. I think Tom Baker was the last Doctor Who I actually watched, so I haven't watched it for a long time.
Assume, surely.
Don't tell
You
anyone.
must love Doctor Who.
And I don't.
Yeah, I personally always thought it was just all right. I liked the acting, but in some of the Doctors, it looked like a film set that like a student had made.
Yeah,
and
no,
like,
I
here's a
haven't watched
$100.
Tenet and stuff. I must say, Doctor Who's probably got one of the best intro music, hands down. Hands down.
Well,
all right.
even as not a Doctor Who fan,
With the
even I know
screwdriver
that
and
that's
stuff.
part of the appeal.
Yeah, that's
The fact that we can pull it
Low
off on
budget.
such a small budget, and hang on, they were in that room just a couple of seconds ago. They've just switched it around. That's part of the fun.
Do you guys have reruns in the UK?
We do have repeats.
Yeah.
We used to have them a lot more often. When there were only 4.5 channels, it would be quite common to see a repeat of something on BBC One or BBC Two. But what you get now, because we've got 1,001 different channels, the repeats tend to go on obscure channels or cable channels with names like Dave.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dave.
yes.
One.
Yeah.
So it means that the BBC are under more pressure than ever to only show original stuff. Not just the BBC, all the big channels.
Because the way that I'm used to it growing up was you just watch loads and loads of different reruns are on like all day until like 7 p.m. roughly, when every channel's got the new episode of something. But before that, yeah, it's just some reruns and things. Yeah.
Well,
So the other thing they haven't mentioned yet, obviously, just talking about the BBC there, in Britain, you have to pay for a TV license. From obviously the BBC, you know, if you watch normal TV, you got to pay for a TV license. And it's not cheap. It's like 100. When I lived there, it was £147 a year just to watch TV, which is crazy. I don't know any other country that does that at all. But I don't know if it's still a thing. I'm pretty sure it is. If it is, let me know. But yeah, they haven't mentioned that yet. So I wonder if that will come up.
what we have now, there's a channel, for example, with the unusual name Dave,
yeah.
which is basically the repeats channel.
Yeah.
They do some original stuff, they do some great original stuff,
Yeah.
but the thing that you'll find on
Dave.
there most of the time
Just
is
reruns.
repeats on stuff that was made for the BBC but chosen by Dave, as they say.
So can you explain to me what the watershed is?
Watershed. So this is a term, I don't know if we use it so much anymore, but it refers to 9 p.m,
Yeah.
which is when they...
Where you can get a little bit more risky, get a little bit more risque in your TV, you know. 9 o'clock was, you know, bedtime for kids, you know, so it's only adults, supposedly past 9 o'clock. They get a little bit more, you know, kind of, as we call it in Australia, a little bit more blue. But yeah, that's what that
assume
is.
most young children have gone to bed. So
Okay.
that's why you'll say something like, oh, you can't say that on TV because it's before the watershed.
Yeah.
But if it's post-watershed, as in after 9 p.m, you can say...
anything? Really?
Yes. Yeah, you can. In fact, I remember very clearly watching Tom Green doing his little insert before his show from the late 90s, a little special thing just for Channel 4 in the UK. And he says, hello, people in the UK. I just think it's absolutely wonderful that in this country you can say... And the whole audience goes, because in America that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's the word you don't say. That's
Well-
the one word. Don't use that one.
It's still a very offensive word, and, you know, you mustn't say it to the
Not here in Australia. I know which word he's talking about, but no, we use it slightly differently here in Australia.
police. But it depends on the context. In Scotland, and you can back me up on this, Internet, in Scotland, the word just means person.
Oh, like Australia?
Yeah, I guess it's the same in Australia too.
See, that's what I tell you. That Scottish and Australian coming together, meeting in the middle. I get it from both sides.
I can't speak for Australia. I can't really speak for Scotland either.
Yeah.
But the word is not as horrible in Scotland as it is here, and it's certainly not as horrible as in America, where you take swear words very seriously.
You're not allowed to have any swear words on TV during most of the time. I know there's a channel called Cartoon Network that has Adult Swim, which is after midnight. And then you can get into that trippy stuff with swear words, but it's after midnight. But before that, I think South Park was the one that pushed the envelope. They made an episode in which they said shit.
Oh yeah,
like
they had
70
a
times.
counter in the top left
Yes.
corner. I think it was because this was in the same week that they'd relaxed the laws about
Yeah.
being able to say on TV.
And so,
they
like,
thought,
here we
okay,
go.
let's let rip.
I think it was called It Hits the Fan, and that was just...
I remember it now.
Let's go with that.
Things have changed. There's, you know, the older generation feels very uncomfortable hearing words like mother. and so on. But the generation today, there are words that, as it were, trigger
definitely.
us. But in our case, it tends to be racial slurs or words that show
things that
you're
hurt
not
protected
nice.
classes, not just angry words.
Yeah, there's words I wouldn't dream of saying because
same.
The sort of people who carelessly use those words, it tells you a bit about how they think, and it's something that we use as a signifier. Stay away from this person. He just used that word.
Yeah. So the BBC versus the news. There's a bit of a difference there.
Versus the news?
Well, versus the US news. No, because the BBC is funded by TV licenses. We haven't really gone into TV licenses.
I should explain the BBC. So the British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC, is the public-funded broadcaster in the UK. So that's why all BBC websites, TV and radio never has any advertising. In fact, not only will you never find an advert, they will go out of their way to make sure that nothing looks like an advert. So that's why a phrase that you'll often hear on BBC radio is other are available. So for example, if I'm talking to you about Sainsbury's, if we're having a discussion about supermarkets in general, and we've been talking about Sainsbury's for a while, if we're on the beeb, I have to look at the camera and say, other supermarkets are available. And by saying that, I've proven to my bosses that we're not doing advertising.
What's the price per year of a TV license? Do you know? It's
£145 a year.
145, and that's per house.
Per household, yeah. But that's quite good value. I might be wrong about that, by the way.
This video is 5 years old, so it might be a little bit more than that. Let me know if you live in the UK, how much it is now.
Value.
It's great value if you consider how much you get for that. You've got BBC One, BBC Two, BBC Three, which is online, BBC Four,
the radio,
all of the local, all the radio stations, all of the local BBC radio stations, all of the websites. There is a fantastic.
That's okay if you watch the BBC. If you don't watch the BBC but you still watch TV, you still have to pay. That's the thing.
If you're on YouTube now, I suggest you look up a song called Proud of the BBC by Mitch Benn, which is basically just a long list of all BBC, TV and radio things.
Different things,
and it makes you realise just how much we get for £100 and something a year.
It's a huge value. I mean,
with no ads.
With no ads as well. You might as well advertise. But in the US, for instance, you're saying 140 per year. I'm pretty sure that at least with Comcast, there's only two companies you can get from mostly, which is Comcast or Time Warner. They have a duopoly. You just have to pick one of those two if it's in your area. The price is about $100 per month.
Per month?
Per month, and that's with ads.
Wow.
And if you want to get, and then people might saying, oh, you can get cheaper than that. Not really, because if you want just TV, it's going to cost you so much that they're like, you might as well throw in the phone and the internet. There's almost no way of not having a landline or not having the internet as well or just having internet. They force the whole package and it's always about $100 a month.
That seems extortionate.
Yes.
One of the great things about the BBC is they call it a TV license, but that's a really strange term for what it is. Probably a more accurate term is BBC subscription, because it doesn't just get you TV, it also gets you the websites, which of course...
iPlayer and stuff.
iPlayer, the radio, which, British radio, I mean, it's...
Again, if you watch the BBC and you use that channel, but if you don't, you still have to pay it. You still have to pay it though, and then obviously any streaming services on top of that as well too. So
different now that we have so many stations on DAB, but there was a time when if you were listening to the radio, it was more than likely going to be a BBC station. So
which meant no ads on the radio?
No ads on the radio.
I cannot believe that.
Not only do they not have any adverts, they don't have special offers and this program is brought to you by and competitions and the sort of thing that makes breakfast radio intolerable. It is such a more relaxing experience listening to a BBC radio station than a commercial radio station. And that's not the commercial station's fault. They need to get paid.
They'd have to have the revenue,
as we know on YouTube. But unfortunately, adverts get in the way. And that's the wonderful thing about the way the BBC is funded. Adverts don't get in the way. It means you can enjoy the programs without being interrupted, and better than not being interrupted, you also know that you're not being sold to. You know that what you're watching really is what you came for.
Well, if you want to know more about adverts, actually, there's a part 2 to this video coming out next week, or it could be out right now.
I can't resist talking about the advertising, but yes, tune in for that.
If you want to click right here, if it's live, if it's not, you just wait, subscribe. I will see you guys next week. Hope you enjoyed this. If you have anything else to add, please add it in the comments. I'll see you next week.
Shall I say goodbye?
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I speak very fast. I'm sorry.
Interesting. Some interesting points there. Most of it not really that much surprising. Obviously, as I said, I grew up watching British TV. We had British parents, so that was always on, all the classic TV shows from Britain. And then obviously the 90s hit, and you get all the American shows, like Beverly Hills and all that kind of stuff. But that was interesting. Nice to see that, obviously, as I was talking about, the TV license is still going. As I said, this video is about 5 years old, so I'm assuming it's a lot more than that now. But as I said, that's okay if you watch the BBC, you partake of the BBC. Some people can't watch it. It doesn't really have their programs that they want to watch. They have to watch something else, but you still have to pay for it. So that was interesting. I like that. That was interesting about how they thought, certain TV shows work in certain countries, like not too sure if Doctor Who would work in America. Don't know if that would translate. There's a few shows that doesn't translate. Maybe a few shows that come over, that work even better. Like I said, I haven't seen the British Office. I've only seen the American one. I thought it was fine. After the first season was, maybe too close to the British. Didn't quite translate to what the British was. Very cringeworthy. Jeez, that was cringeworthy. Hard to get through. But as soon as you hit that second, third, fourth season of The Office in America, absolutely fantastic. Very, very funny writing. So, but that was interesting. That was interesting. Let me know if you enjoyed that, guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. Make sure you stay safe, and I will definitely see you in the next reaction video. Oh, you're still here? You want more content? Why don't you check out my Patreon down here? You'll get plenty more content and some exclusive videos over there too. If not, why not check out this one over here?